Alright everyone, we've had a deluge of stuff from Midnight's first wave of press, and here's the strange part. Blizzard's own sources have actually been wrong about the contents of their own expansion. We've seen awfully written blog posts, a completely fractured media presence, and the likes of dev panels not be streamed and then be uploaded with absolutely awful audio. You know, it's almost as if their internal social media, marketing, and publishing teams were completely gutted. So yes, it's been an embarrassment, but the info is out there. We've been able to validate everything we can, so today I'll fix the problem for you. Here is everything that's coming in Midnight. Okay, we've got a new feature coming called Prey, and it matters because WoW's open world gameplay hasn't foundationally changed since Legion, which was 9 years ago. That's when we got world quests, but now they're kind of stale. So Blizzard are adding in a new challenge called Prey, and Prey is a PvE gameplay system. Basically, it's a sort of hunter be hunted thing while you are questing or flying around. And what you do is you either pick normal, hard, or nightmare mode based on your skill difficulty, and apparently it's similar to delve bosses like Kaivessa, but they're just out in the open world. Now, if that doesn't seem good to you, that's okay. It is an opt-in thing, so if you just want to chill, you can totally do that. But if you're bored and you want some excitement that isn't instanced, then, well, you can become either Predator or Prey. And overall, the impression I've got from this is that it's another layer of stuff on top of the regular open world experience, just that it's one that does appear to allow for a good amount of challenge. Now, it will have cosmetic rewards, it'll have things like mounts, housing items, and I have to imagine gear and that sort of thing, but obviously there isn't confirmation in systems like that yet. There's huge news for returning players as well. Kind of incredible, actually. In Midnight, they're actually revamping the entire new and returning player experience. What that means is that Exile's Reach is getting revamped, and it will then directly lead into Dragonflight and the War Within. But what they're doing is essentially a streamlining of the story, and that streamlining of the story is going to include raids in their new single-player story mode. So basically, there'll be no more skipping stuff. You'll be able to essentially experience the story from Dragonflight through to now, which does sort of make sense because Dragonflight is where the World Soul Saga plot threads really did start to begin. Now, if you're returning more recently, you'll get a guided tour from either Thrall or Jaina around the Arathi Highlands, and they'll make sure you know about all the new gameplay and systems. So there you go, a personal welcome back from Metzen or Laura Bailey. Now, luckily, the new lore walking system is getting additions as well. And if you're not familiar with that, lore walking is a curated, narrated version of old quests that does actually have some sort of custom bits of new content as well. It actually went down really well when it was put into the game 1 or 2 patches ago. Basically, you're walked through lore, it's old stories with new context, but importantly, they're always relevant to the modern story. So what Blizzard are doing is they're adding more lore walking campaigns. I'd expect to see new details on like everything elf related and everything light related, which, come to think of it, is quite a lot. You may have seen headlines that transmogrification is free. That is actually not true, but it is going to be cheaper and the system is being revamped. And this is the most important thing, right? In Midnight, transmog is going to be slot-based, not item-based. So you would pay to stick a new hat mog on your head slot, not on the helmet that is currently in your head gear slot. That sounds a little bit complicated, but it basically is way more easy. If you transmog your head, but then you change your actual headgear, well, that'll be fine, because you'll just apply that slot's appearance to your new bit of gear for completely free. So that essentially means no more spending the transmog tax every time you get a new item. Though there are a few edge cases we're not super sure about, like if you have a two-hander transmog and you swap to a sword and a shield, but I trust they'll make things like that work. But that's actually not all. We're getting a new feature, which is contextual swapping. We don't have the specifics yet, but the idea basically is you would walk into your house, and then suddenly your character would automatically change its transmog into one of your choosing. So basically a system that allows you to change your transmog automatically based on where you are or what you're doing. As an example, if you accept a summon to a raid, then yeah, you could load up your edgiest, glowiest set to look like the most hardcore raider you could be. But for a lot of people, say our peers, I think the notion of just being able to put on a nice, regular set whenever they walk into town, automatically, I think that'll be a big win for them. This next one's fairly minor, but it will be core to how the game feels. Vigor, as a part of the Skyriding system, is going away. So, Skyriding, which is the newer, faster, more dynamic flight system, is changing to, instead of using the Vigor balls that we currently have in our UI, to use shared charges for abilities instead. And ultimately, this is streamlined, and it will probably be faster for most people, and it'll also clean up your screen as well, because the Vigor bar is aggressively huge. Next, there's huge news for add-ons. So if you're coming back to Midnight, there are certain combat add-ons you won't need, if this plan works. They've already started replacing things, of course, but now they're going one step further. Blizzard almost hid this news buried under the gameplay features heading, but basically, nameplate changes are coming, and an Xbox Wire post, yeah, I know, sums this up as more clarity, more customization, less clutter. So basically, way better default nameplates and more customization for them. But it's not only that, the Advanced Cooldown Manager is also getting updates as well, and if you're not familiar with that feature, it's basically their take on, and in a way, attack of, weak auras. So with this being announced, it's fairly clear their next target is Plater. Let's talk about housing then. Some good news. You're going to have your WoW houses before Christmas. That's because Ian hard confirmed that housing comes in patch 11.2.7, which will be, quote, later this year. And based on the current schedules, we believe they're targeting December, though you will need to actually own Midnight to play it. And we also got another nice hard confirm of a feature, and that is imports. Basically, if you like someone's house, you can just ask them for their import code, and then, well, you can import their house. Pretty cool, and it should allow for a lot of community sharing, as an example of things like templates for houses or kitted out areas. Okay, let's move into some content then. Well, we finally know what's going on with the Haranir. They're going to be our allied race this expansion. Basically, they're the ancient, druidic, troll-like people from deep underneath Azeroth, like, say, Orwena from the War Within cinematic. And we actually found files in the data mining last year to indicate this. It seems like they were maybe planned to be in our hands earlier, but hey, now we're finally getting them. And that's complete with brand new druid forms for the first time since Battle for Azeroth. And thankfully, they can be either faction just like with the Earthen, and you'll be able to be every class except for Paladin, Demon Hunter, and Evoker. They're apparently bioluminescent, and from what we've seen in people's pictures of slides from Gamescom, well, the customization options do actually appear to be quite diversified, so you can really make these guys look pretty damn different. Classes then. We're not getting a new class, but we are getting a new spec. Demon Hunter is getting Devourer, which is a mid-range caster with some insanely cool sounding cosmic and void abilities. There's things like Collapsing Star, which just sounds cool. But here's the big thing. It's probably actually a melee DPS that can stay in mid-range. That's at least our take from looking through all the abilities. They revealed that it does have melee abilities, like Void Blade and Hungering Slash. They basically dive in close, do cool void stuff, and then jump back out. And if you're an FF14 player, you may recognize this as being inspired by both Red Mage and Reaper. And at least from my jaunt into FF14, man, Red Mage is awesome. If we get that gameplay feel here, I'm very happy. I think it's a really cool fantasy for a mobile caster. And if you loved Shadow Priest back during the Legion expansion, then maybe you'd want to check this out. Now, the main gameplay loop revolves around harvesting souls to extend your Void metamorphosis as long as you can. Now, that being said, it's one new spec. I can understand people being a bit disappointed in that. I would say hold your breath just for now. At a panel this weekend, Ian and Paul Cubitt are going to talk about the other new talents that are coming to the game, so there could be some cool new bells and whistles for your class. All that we know thus far is we're getting 10 new talent points to play with, and also we're getting Apex talents, which sounds cool. We don't really know what they are yet. So that's a lot of stuff. What about the actual content? Well, here's what it is. 4 major story zones. First, the Eversong Woods, which are revamped, healed from the Scourge, and now also include the Ghostland. So it's all that as one big zone. Second, Zul'Aman. That's the Forest Troll Empire, but massively expanded. Man, it looks gorgeous. Third, Harrendar. This is a zone that is seemingly deep under Quel'Thalas, where the unknown world tree's roots meet. That's, of course, where we're going to meet the Harrenir. And then finally, there's Voidstorm, which is a distant void world where Xal'atath has her base of operations. I honestly wonder if it's maybe the place that she actually used to call home. We don't know how we get there, but if I was to speculate, there is a big hole in the sky, maybe we fly up it. Story-wise, this one is going to be different from the last few expansions though. We start off in Eversong, fighting off Xal'atath's attack from the cinematic. Once we sort that out, we get a choice. There are 3 middle chapters to choose from. One takes us down to Harrendar to discover Azeroth's hidden history and to befriend the Harrenir. Another is to go to Zul'Aman to awaken dormant troll gods and recruit them to our cause. The third is not a new zone. It's actually quite cool. We investigate the light. Basically, it's Arator, which is Alleria and Turalian's son, taking us on a quest, a pilgrimage across Lordaeron's holy places. Stuff like Light's Hope Chapel. Essentially, it's a campaign chapter that's not limited to only being in a new zone, which honestly I think is a no-brainer for just trying to tell a good story that takes all the cool stuff from Warcraft into account. So I like that. Once we do the 3 of those, we wrap it up in Voidstorm, and it's quite cool. Basically, the Army of the Light are going to be at our back, and we lay siege to Xal'atath's fortress once and for all, and I'm sure everything will go accordingly to plan. Let's talk about the main city. The main city this time is Silvermoon, but there's actually a twist. It is not a neutral city. It's the base for both factions, but the Alliance only gets a relatively small staging area. And as an Alliance main, I'm actually really happy to see that. I think this is the right way to do things. It makes sense for us to be there in the story. I think the Horde have got a real raw deal, and for them, to get Silvermoon revamped, big new city in all of its glory, I think that's fantastic. For an Alliance player's experience, being in a little enclave staging area, I actually think is pretty cool, so I'm down with this. And certainly from what we've seen, the art team are, as usual, cooking. Now, to be clear, Blizzard have not really done all of their deep dives yet. We don't know if there are more structural changes. We don't know if this will feel similar to Khazalgar in terms of rares, treasures, and world quests. But story and content-wise, I actually think that's sounding pretty good. Dungeons and Delves then, we're obviously getting them, and Blizzard confused everybody by being their own fake news. Well done, guys. Anyway, here's what is reliable and fact-checked. There are 8 dungeons, and some of them are pretty cool, like Windrunner Spire, which, by the way, is remade, way bigger, looks awesome, a totally remade Magister's Terrace, and Murder Row, so that's 3 in Eversong. Then there's the Den of Nalarak and Miasra Caverns in Zul'Aman, and the Blinding Veil in Harrendar. And the description kind of caught us off guard. A Dawnwell, causing rapid growth that threatens Silvermoon. So I wonder what a Dawnwell is. Anyway, the last 2 are in Voidstorm, and they're called Nexus Point Zenith and Void Scar Arena. Sounds pretty cool. Now, the most recent patch dungeon, Ecodome Aldani, is absolutely fantastic. If it's a similar team continuing with similar quality, then yes, that would be very good indeed. Delves then. Blizzard also gave us misinfo here. Thank you, guys. Some places said there were 7 delves, others said there were 11 delves. But here's what we're sure of. There are 10 delves, plus 1 extra one for the Nemesis boss. We know 3 are in Eversong, 3 are in Voidstorm, and 2 are in Zul'Aman, and there are 3 more that don't have confirmed locations as of yet. And honestly, I'm really excited to just see how they've got better at making delves, because now they've got a full expansion of feedback. Now, our new delve companion is going to be Valeera Sanguinar. She's one of the few neutral but recognizable blood elves. She's got plenty of history, and I think makes sense for her character. And to be real with you, from the perspective of someone who accidentally just fell back in love with playing the basic game, I'm really excited for this. I'm especially excited for what's coming with raids. Raids are very different this time around. We're not getting 1, we're actually getting 3. Our first raid will be the Void Spire. That's an assault on Xal'atath's base, and it's going to have only 6 bosses, down from the usual 8. But then we've got a 1-boss raid in Harrendar, which is called the Dream Rift, and to finish it off, a 2-boss raid called the March on Quel'Danas, which is of course the island up to the north of Quel'Thalas. And a structure like this is almost completely new to Blizzard. This feels so old school that it's basically like a Burning Crusade or Wrath era thing, because that's how they used to structure their raids. And building 3 raid environments is going to take a lot of work, so they must be doing that for good reason. and I suppose that reason's likely the story. For years, Blizzard have struggled to tell the story well in raids. You know, with the release window being tied to the season and all of that stuff, and sometimes it means we even get the story of the game out of order, which just confuses people. And it ends up being the case that there's one raid and one big cinematic cutscene. I think though with 3 raids they can split things out a little bit more, they can have more story with the same amount of bosses, which does seem great to me. Now we'll have a big story beat, of course, in attacking the Void Spire, then a little intermission to fight an undreamt god in the Dream Rift, and then, after a week or two, we'll get quests that send us to Quell Danas. That basically is to Sunwell Plateau. You'll know that from the final patch of the Burning Crusade expansion if you played back then, as I did. Banging patch, and that seems to be our big finale. And for those who aren't raiders, the good news is that story mode will be there, and it will, well, basically allow them to put real story in the raids again. So this could be quite massively improved, to be honest with you. And out of almost everything I'll say today, this seriously might be the most important thing. Blizzard are breaking tradition here, they're changing up the structure. But they're even doing it in a way that's making life harder for themselves, you know, making 3 raids, 3 raid environments instead of 1, so they must think it's worth it. But here's the most shocking thing. PvPers have not been completely forgotten, and I think this just speaks to how confusing the media environment has been. Many people don't know that there's going to be a new battleground that is 40v40. It's in Voidstorm, it's called Slayer's Rise, and this is basically the first new epic battleground they've done since Ashran in Warlords of Draenor. Now, technically, it's changed from being an open world PvP thing to a epic battleground that happened late in BFA for Ashran, but that still is 3 whole expansions ago. But that's not all. They might seriously be working toward a future for at least some PvP. That's because loads of people love Comp Stomp. That's the versus NPC version of Battlegrounds. And those are becoming a fixed option instead of being a rotating thing. And the biggest thing is its changing name. Its name is changed to the Training Grounds. I would then say, interesting. Training for what? Training for real PvP? Training for more battlegrounds Blizzard will put into the game? I have to wonder if this is the start of something. But more than any of that, is this it? Is that all? Because I've seen a lot of feedback from people saying that this seems small for an expansion, and in a way, you're right. But let me kinda tell you why. Blizzard screwed this reveal so hard. There are tons of panels with VODs that are coming up late, and the VODs are really quite bad quality, with like just awful audio. People literally have mismatching information, and some of their stuff, right, is exclusively found in YouTube shorts. So if you don't happen to have a YouTube short rammed into your face, or just go to the Warcraft channel and go to the Shorts tab, I'm pretty sure that's a way that nobody consumes shorts, then you'll just miss stuff out. There's other stuff that can be found in the press center. There's others that is, buried in official posts. Some of those official posts are so poorly written that people are accusing them of being AI, but I have to tell you, any state-of-the-art model would produce better English language copy than what was contained in those posts. This is all deeply strange. I mean, there is even a promised deep dive panel that just seems to have disappeared at the last minute. This is a complete omnishambles. So, what you've seen in this video is not everything in Midnight. I'll be back next week with a more complete picture after all the clarifications, all the creator interviews, all the updates. But if you want something next, watch my breakdown of the cinematic, because I promise you, there is more than meets the eye, and a lot of people, well, if they've only played the game recently, and they see this cinematic, which has got so much stuff that's rooted in the Burning Crusade, well, probably won't get it. But the good news is, my video will solve that problem, so go watch it next.